All right, welcome. Hey everyone, I'm in season 3, episode 131. My name is Misheard from Misheard Songs Podcast. I'm excited to share with you an actual guest. The last time we had a guest here was way back, I think December of 2020, season 2, episode 68, with Mr. Jason's lovely wife, Jenna. And so it's ironic that we have Jason here now. And we're going to be talking about our first ever misheard song lyric on Wang Chung's Dance Hall Days. So the misheard lyric is, "We were cool on Christ." But the real lyrics is, "We were cool on craze." That does not make sense to me. But Jason, tell us about your misheard.
Well, this is my first podcast, so hi everybody. If this is awkward, blame me. I just remember listening to Wang Chung back in the 80s, and that song came out, and I was like, oh, this is kind of a good song, but they're cool on Christ. I was like, so that kind of slid them into a weird category of like guilty pleasure, like, is it Christian rock? So, eventually they had more hits, and Everybody Have Fun Tonight.
Yes.
Live and Die in LA. So,
Yes.
it was always kind of this under the radar, like I had a couple of their albums. Oddly enough, it didn't come with the lyric sheet, so I didn't find out that I was completely wrong about this song until in college. I was singing along with it, and one of my friends was like, what did you just sing? No, it's Craze. It's like, oh, this completely changes the band for me.
It sounds like Christ, guys, and of course we will share with you the snippet, but it does. So, but you have another funny story. Did you?
I eventually saw them. They did a tour to support their greatest hits album in '98, I think it was.
All right.
I was living in Spokane, and they played this horrible little rock club, and I think there was a grand total of about 15 people at this show.
No way.
And they no longer had a band, so it was just the lead singer and the guitarist, and he would, in between each song, go in the back of the stage and push play on what I assume was a digital tape for the rest of the sound, the drums and the backup.
And they would just sing.
And then he would get up and sing, the guitarist would play,
Oh my God.
and then they would stop and he'd go back and hit play on the next song. And then he did like acoustic versions of all the songs again. I'm like, well, we've already heard of these. And of course, this being a little tiny venue, after the show, he stuck around and was signing things. And I actually got like one of the posters from the show signed. I tried to find it today, but I have no idea where it stuck.
Oh my God.
But yeah, after the show, they just kind of sat there chatting with the audience. And so I'm over there chatting with the lead singer, and he's like, oh, people think that this is all the rock star life. He's like, I'm married, I got kids. I'm not out here trying to have fun. I'm just, just making a living.
Oh my God.
Meanwhile, this lady, who's probably Wang Chung's #1 fan.
In Spokane.
All in like black fringed leather.
Of course.
And like she is there on a mission.
Oh boy.
And so she comes over and starts chatting with the lead singer, and after about a minute of that, they take off and disappear.
Oh,
I was like, I thought he was not to have fun. So somebody did have fun tonight.
You didn't mention that your misheard song lyric to them, did you? Did you
No,
ask them?
no,
Okay.
I didn't ask if he was cool on Christ.
Well, I have some info about that lead singer and more about the band. So when Jason reached out to me and said, hey, I'm like, okay, I usually when any of you guys reach out and I do you a shout out, I actually listen to it because I want to say, is this legit? It is legit. I mean, it does sound like he's saying cool on Christ. The craze doesn't even make any sense. So who is Wang Chung? So there's lots I found out. They are, of course, English new wave band, started in London in 1980 by a Nick Friedman, I think it's Fieldman, and Jack Hughes and Darren Costin. And if you didn't know, the original spelling of Wang Chung was actually Huang Chung, which means yellow bell in Chinese. And they later changed it to the Wang Chung version, which is the Wang that we know today, and I'll explain why. But the band also had a lot of success, as what Jason said earlier, top 40 hits, charting between 83 and 87. Dance Hall Days, which we're talking about today, it was number 16 in 1984. Everybody Have Fun Tonight, number 2 in 1986, and Let's Go, number 9 in 1987. I don't remember that. But the person I think you're talking about, my friend, is Jeremy Ryder. He's also known as Jack Hughes. He's the vocalist, guitarist. And then Nick Feldman is the guitar. So those were the two of Wang Chung. And then they, of course, were the core. And they actually first met because when Hughes answered Feldman's advertisement, because, hey, youngins, back in the day, things were put in paper. If you wanted a job or a gig, you read the newspaper, and that's how they were joined. And then they added a Bud Merrick on bass, Paul Hammond. For those of you that are Atomic Rooster fans, I guess he was part of that. Never heard of that group. On drums, and that's how they formed. And then in less than a year, they actually split up. So the original band they called were the Intellectuals, spelled differently, and then eventually formed. And so the whole thing about the career is the members would perform under pseudonyms. So the lead singer guy, Jeremy Ryder, now known as Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes is a pseudonym. That's not even really his name. So that's what they did back then. I don't know, maybe they're like, if we make bad music, no one can find us later or what. And then Nick Feldman was Nick DeSpig. That was his pseudonym name. And then Darren Costin was Darren Darwin, and then later just changed to Darwin, one name like Madonna. And then they signed with a label. I mean, are you learning new stuff, Jason? Because I've learned so much. They went to a label called 101 Records, and that was their first Wang Chung release. So if you have it, I bet it's worth some money because it has the old name of the Huang Chung. And then they had a song called Baby I'm Human that appeared in that label or compilation band album in 1980, and it started getting them some steam. And then from there, in 1980, this independent record company called Rewind Records signed the band for a 2-single deal. And they wrote the song called Isn't It About Time We Were on TV? Never heard of it. I bet you can Google it. And Stand Still. Neither charted, surprisingly. But because of it, they started to get more attention to Arista Records. Because also back in the day, youngins, these execs would just physically go to probably Spokane and say, hey, we hear this band, and they'll listen and see if it's someone they want to sign. So they ended up signing with Arista Records, a 2-album deal. So wow, they must have wowed them. And then in 1981, they signed on, and then they became a quartet, adding a sax player, because remember, the 80s have sexy sax?
Oh yeah, everyone
Come
has
on.
sax back then. That was the age of sax.
I mean, we need to bring the sexy sax back. Come on. I love that guy. Speaking of sexy sax, I'm into Diverge's Timothy. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. The documentary is called Warren, and they talk about the sexy sax guy that toured the world with Tina Turner. He was known for being the sexy because he'd oil up and he'd wear.
Is he the one from the Lost Boys?
Yes, and he's
yeah.
the one.
Yeah,
that guy.
That is amazing.
He's back on. So I digress. I guess he's touring again. I will buy his tickets because I want to see him all, leathered up and wearing his. He's known for a codpiece he wears.
And he's still oiling.
And he's still oiling up. So there you go. We've given you some props there. And so back to the album.
How do we end up on a big saxophone?
It always goes back to the sexy sax. So Wang Chung obviously did well, and here's why I want to share with you why they changed to Wang Chung. So in 1983, they were still billed under that original Chinese spelling, Huang Chung. And at the BBC, I guess, too, this music show, their version of it, I guess, they were said, hey, you know what? You really need to change the spelling of the band because Geffen, I guess David Geffen of Arista, I guess, said the Wang Chung spelling will be better for us in the Western world, and people would understand that. So and easy, as they said, pronounced easier for us English speakers. So they've now changed their name, and that's what we know today and how they were popular. Now the band spent many of 1983 recording their second album. So I'm just going through there. Did a lot more, but the thing that's interesting is they did what you talked about, To Live and Die in LA. Totally forgot about that movie, so I'm going to watch it. So what happened was they started to hook up with different, I guess, directors. And a director by the name of William Friedkin sought out Wang Chung. So they must have been loving all the other songs they like. And said, hey, we're doing a 1980 film called To Live and Die in LA. And this started their soundtrack, work, which I did not know. And it became the group's third album, which was with the soundtrack. and is, they say, recognizable as one of their more mainstream works. It went top 10 on the U.S. Billboard soundtrack to Firstborn, so that Live and Die in L.A. kind of brought him back into prominence.
Oh, Spokane's #1 fan had a copy of that album with her. I was like, that was Wang Chung?
So she really was the #1 fan.
Yeah. Yep.
I wonder if she's listening, and we have to give her some props. You never know. And then what the other thing too is, another did you know was, this song that Jason has, the Misheard, is the only single to make the top 40 charts in the UK, narrowly missing the top 20. In the US, it peaked at number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went to #1 on the Dance Club song charts. So do you want to know how it was created, why the song was made? Do you know? Maybe you
I
know?
don't know. I haven't gone that deep on Wang
You're
Chung,
obviously
honestly.
not the #1 fan like that lady. So singer Jack Hughes, now we know it's a pseudonym of Mr. Jeremy, writer, said, here's what he said, quote unquote, "I used to teach guitar in various schools in London to high school kids. One afternoon, someone didn't show up for a lesson. I just came up with Dance Hall Days, as one does. And it seems to write itself. I fiddled around with it to get the lyrics right and so on, but the basic idea, the rhythm, the take your baby by the hand melody, the opening chords, they all came together. The essential of the song was there was a spare 20 minutes when the kid forgot his guitar lesson. Thank God that kid forgot his guitar lesson." Nick says, when he heard it, immediately phoned David Massey, our manager, and said, "Jack's written a hit." So that's the birth of Dance Hall Days, okay? Do you remember the music video, Jason?
I don't remember that video. I do remember Everybody Have Fun Tonight, but yeah, not that one.
There's 2 versions. So when I did research for Jason, like I always do when I have guests or a shout out, I'm like, well, what does the video look like? Because I remember one video, well, there's 2. So originally, before they hit it big with Dance Hall Days, they made one that I was like, that's weird. The first video was directed by Derek Jarman, and all it is home videos of some dudes, archival footage of stage shows from like the USO, from the 40s, 50s, swimmers and fountains, like the old school, jumping in with all the synchronized swimming, World War II era material, and then the band is spliced in between all this, wearing 80s pleated beige colored pants.
As one does.
As one does in the 80s. And the, I'm going to say it, the Bill Cosby 80s chunky sweaters, also in beige, doing their thing. And then the weird thing is, because the director's father also had a lot of the home, movie, that's what he spliced into this, thinking Dance Hall Days sounds like a 1940s thing. Then there's the actual director, I guess, as a toddler in the home videos. And then you see Jack, Nick, and Darren lip syncing, playing the violin, and then within a minute, almost at the end, they're all dressed as characters of Wizard of Oz. And the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Darren Costin as the lion. That's original video, okay? Then I'm
gonna have to go back and cut this down.
I'll put the link to the video so you can see both of them. And then the second video that I think I remember as a child or teen in 80-something was they did a second version. That's the well-known, and that's the one you saw heavy rotation on MTV. And let me set it up for you. They said it's a magical fantasy concept video set also in the 40s in the dance halls. So it kind of used that same theme, but it starts in black and white with the lead singer, Jack Hughes, or Jeremy Ryder, we now know, is in front of, I think, an old dance hall, and he picks up like a piece of paper that's like, oh, what's going on? And then it changes to color. And then you see him now in front of a big band singing this song with everyone dressed up, and what they did is the dancers and everyone dressed up in these period pieces are, I guess, people that he pulled from some children from a local dancing school. That's what they said. And then Jack Hughes, lead singer, or someone that looks like him, all of a sudden while he's singing, jumps off the stage and does multiple back handsprings. But they don't show his face, so I don't think it's him, but if it's him, way to go, Jack Hughes. And then he's, ends after his back handsprings in front of 2, I think, twins sitting at a front table, and he's singing to them, and he's, and he's like essentially like singing towards them. And these ladies are wearing matching yellow dresses, so I don't understand the significance of that. And then later it goes, you see the same dance hall, a disco ball comes down. This is where it gets kind of crazy. And then the disco ball opens up, and a Lady Gaga-esque person, all like in disco ball misheard comes out of the disco ball.
How do I not remember this?
Come
This
on.
sounds like something that would be stuck in deep in the recesses of the back. Yeah.
Yep, and then the video ends back in black and white, where Hughes walks past Holland down the street and he leaves a suitcase behind him. But wait, the suitcase springs with legs, female legs and arms, and runs after him, and that's how it ends. So you want to know, Jason, how the video did in MTV? Because obviously it was shown a lot on MTV. Like if it won any awards.
I assume it must have won something.
Well, I mean, the version was nominated for Best New Artist and the 1984 MTV Video Music Awards, but they lost. And guess who they lost to?
84.
84.
Journey.
Ooh, close. They lost to, which I can see why, Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams Are Made
Oh,
of These.
yeah. Oh, that was an excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent
so
video.
that's who they lost to. But please, everyone, watch the video and you'll see both versions, because it's like, it was a what the moment with both. But the guy that you talk about, that this is Jeremy Ryder now, Jack Hughes, I got him confused with another 80s band that came out too, because he almost looks like, who is it? It's that band.
Erasure?
Yes, I thought he and Erasure were the same. It's two totally different guys.
Yeah, no.
They look the same.
I don't think either of them is cool on Christ. And they're...
So yeah, sorry everyone. I assumed they were one and the same because they sound the same, they look the same, but it's just the European, I guess, blonde hair, what have you. But have I
Just well-coiffed Brit. Well-coiffed Brit.
So have you learned a lot? Because I learned a lot.
I have.
And I mean, I knew that they were Wang Chung, but I didn't know the original Chinese spelling.
I've actually seen that album with the Chinese spelling on it. I vaguely recall it's like pinkish lavender cover.
They said it's worth some money if you have the vinyl.
I saw it in Seattle a long time ago, but I didn't buy it. But
if any of the listeners here, because we have a worldwide. Right now I'm trending in Liberia. Thank you, Liberia, and the Philippines.
Woo!
Hey, if you have it, please let us know. Send us an email at misheardsongs at misheard songs@gmail.com, because we'd love to know. And if you're that mysterious #1 fan, what was that, 1998?
98.
In Spokane, all dressed in black leather fringe.
Oh yeah.
Please email us, or go to any of our Instagram, any of our social, Facebook, anything, Twitter. We would love to talk to you and get your backstory of what you said to them that made them want to leave so quickly. Anyway, I've appreciated, time has flown. I appreciate Mr. Jason here. And by the way, if you guys don't know, if you are in the Northwest and you need some legal help, if you're in the
Washington.
Well,
Get arrested in
Washington State.
Or don't get arrested in Washington. That's
Don't
my
get
advice.
arrested.
But if you do.
Mr. Jason is a public defender, and he is probably a very fierce one. I have not seen you in action, but
We're on YouTube all the time now.
I love
It's a thing.
it. I love it. But hopefully you learned a lot. I did. And again, don't forget, keep singing those songs wrong. Bye.